morning and welcome. My name is Demmi. I'm from IBSA and the Industry Manager for Financial Services and Foundation Skills. Today I'm also accompanied by my colleague Louise McIntyre, who will be giving a short presentation at the end about the resources available by IBSA. IBSA is an industry skills council responsible for 6 industries and 7 training packages. We look after business services, financial services, creative and cultural industries, education, foundation skills, information and communications technology, and printing and graphic arts. Today I'll be giving you a short overview of the financial services industry, the impacts, the growth, the decline, and the trends and future opportunities that exist. Innovation in Business Skills Australia, otherwise known as IBSA, has identified the factors that currently have impact on the skills needed in our workforce in the financial services industry, and are considering well how the national training system, its products and services, and industry itself are responding. When we look at the financial services industry, it covers an array of money management services, including banks, credit societies, building societies, insurance providers, superannuation, fund managers, accountants, bookkeepers, and various other personal trustees and credit agencies. The financial services industry is the second biggest contributor to the national output, accounting for 8.6% of the gross value added to our industry. The Australian financial services industry is a sophisticated industry that offers access to the world's 3rd largest pool of investment funds at a total of $1.62 trillion, as well as one of the region's largest pool of bank assets. So what is financial services? It's an industry that provides professional assistance to businesses. We look at financial advice, we look at management and professional services, training and employment, and legislative changes and reforms that are imperative in part of their compliance to work in the sector. All right, so what I'm going to look at now is I'm going to look at persons employed in the financial services sector. Looking at the statistics for 2014 that we've been provided, the financial services industry employs over 420,000 people, or equivalent to about 4% of the total workforce. So it is quite a large percentage of people. Most people in the industry are employed by banks, building societies and credit unions, or accountancy firms. Employment numbers have been fairly stable across the industry in recent years. Growth has been its strongest, predominantly in the accounting sector and the health and general insurance. The latest NCV data that we have shows us that the largest 3 industries that employment services are provided within financial services are 18.5% of our students are gaining employment. With that, we're looking at approximately 39% moving into full-time employment, and of course 37% into part-time employment. And the total, or the average I should say, salary for those employed on a full-time basis is approximately about $55,500 per annum. So we can see that there is an uptake of students within the sector finding employment after they complete their studies in the financial services. Okay, so if we look at the annual employment growth for 2011 to 2014, our biggest employment providers in industry are the banks, and we can see that there's been a decline from 2013 and 12. However, it's still strong. Accounting services continues to increase, and that includes bookkeeping in there, of course, and other accounting services. Insurance is on the growth. Other auxiliary finance and investment sectors are coming up with employment opportunities. Finance and superannuation, once again, is showing up to be areas where future growth is showing itself to be. If we look at the occupations that within the sector, we can see that the biggest demand in the sector currently in financial services are in the areas of mortgage broking, credit assessors and lending managers, financial investment advisors. We're looking at wealth management and super funds there. We're also looking at workers' compensation, insurance claims, insurance brokers, accountants, accountant assistants, business intelligence or data scientists. We're also looking at business risk analysts, compliance managers and auditors within the accounts section. Overall, also in the occupations, the trends are showing that more females are entering the financial sector, with there being approximately 55% of women in the workforce in the finance, and in the sector that they're specialising or working more in is within the insurance, with our statistics are showing us. The auxiliary finance and investment sector, where we have brokers, financial planners, fund managers, it's more a male-dominated environment, and there we're showing 41% of the workforce to be predominantly male. There's a strong gender bias in the number of occupations in the industry, if we look at the stats here, and our NCV data for 2014 is also showing us that predominantly 61% of the workforce is within the 45% in this instance, I'm so sorry, is clerical and administrative workers, 34% in professionals, that could be management and leadership, and other clerical duties are within the other ranges. So the work is there and the demand is definitely progressing within financial services. If we look at the next slide, that breaks it down to the occupations and in the particular states and territories. If we have a look at accountants across the board, there is a steady growth. In WA, it's sitting at 18.9%. Clerks, accountants are coming in at 16.1%. Bookkeepers at 15%. Bank workers. So there's a pretty steady growth consistent across the country in these occupations. So, yep, it is progressing slowly and steadily. If we look at our enrolment numbers within the financial services vocational courses, in 2013 it's very clear that there has been a decline in the financial services training package enrolment numbers. Also, there are various factors that are affecting this, and factors such as funding and state and territorial vet regulations are having an impact. So we need to be considerate of that. And the decline is incompletion, and it could be probably because certain training packages have been superseded. There's other training package qualifications introduced, so hence the transition and the uptake. So that has had an effect there. The latest NCVE data from our enrolments have indicated to me that AQF5, or the diploma level qualifications, have got a steady growth, and they're sitting at about approximately 31% of enrolments. And the certificate 4 is the greatest, where it's currently sitting at approximately 40% in enrolment. The other ones that's of steady growth is certificate 3 in all of the financial services training packages. So Cert 3, Cert 4 in diploma have got the biggest uptake. Study mode, there's a high increase in part-time. That's 70% of students enrolled are in part-time study, and full-time is only showing up approximately 21.5% in enrolment. The other thing too that we look at in enrolments is also the completion rates of the financial services sector, and the completion rate for AQF4, a certificate 4 level, is approximately 5.5%. At diploma at 3.1%, and at AQF6 or advanced diploma at 1.6%. So the completion rates are there, but they're probably not as high as we would like them to be, but clearly showing us that the final completion rates for 2014 are not currently available, but in 2013, yeah, they have been clearly a decline. However, if we have a look at the next slide, which looks at our state and territories, in WA it's very clear that it has been steady. In the other states, very clearly we can see the decline in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia. WA is pretty consistent. Tasmania, Northern Territory and the ACT are very much on par as well. The other thing too is that we're also seeing that in the financial services sector, it's one of the most highly educated industries in Australia. We have approximately 59.5% of our students who come back and study with us or progress their studies, hold an advanced diploma or a higher qualification. So compared to 39% of all other industries. So there is a steady growth of people progressing into study. As training providers and industry partnerships between RTOs and vocational providers, it's imperative that these partnerships continue to grow in order to ensure that the enrolments and the uptake is there for students to attain greater application of knowledge and skill that's required for them to complete their studies, and to also achieve a greater job outcome. That's what we're looking for here. So that component of integrated work, integrated learning, as we say, or application in their assessment, and with some sort of industry relationship is really imperative for the completions of these qualifications. Students attribute these studies for them to be able to come back and study with a particular provider is the engagement with industry. And industry are also looking for that. They're looking for that student to have that exposure with some real life industry partner. So yeah, that's really imperative. In VET and VCAL for Year 11 and Year 12 students, the area of financial services also offers great opportunities to increase financial literacy and growth within the areas of self-employment and greater financial application. ASIC with their MoneySmart program is one of the industry partners that have the inclusion of the MoneySmart online Certificate 3 program, and they have resources and they have a lot of curriculum and framework that aligns with Year 11 and Year 12 so that students can apply that as part of their learning and completion of their studies. It also allows you to take the MoneySmart qualifications and apply them to lower secondary levels as well. This is the MoneySmart website, and you can go on there and you can actually access all these resources, and they have resources available for primary teachers, secondary teachers, community educators. They've got videos, plenty of resources that support financial literacy and the uptake in financial planning or financial education. So if we move on, oh, what's that there? It's supposed to say education there. So if I wanted to look at a bit further as to what the education sector is actually looking at and within financial services. So even though over a quarter of the VET financial services students have a Year 12 qualification, 13% of our students who are returning back to study in vocational education actually do have a higher qualification. This is a relatively high portion of students compared with similar service occupations such as IT and business, and also 8% of the participants, I should say, are degree qualified. So they're coming back either for postgrad studies or further undergrad studies with us in a VET space. Also, the majority of the students who are showing they are returning back to study are over the age of 30. So we're seeing mature age students returning back to study. They could be returning because of a new career, job prospects, professional development, and of course new markets in the financial services industry. Also, the other fast growing age group of financial literacy and uptake in financial education is between the 30 to 39 age group, whilst numbers have dropped in the 20 to 24. That's just part, I think, of having industry experience and identifying where the opportunities and the gaps are. So as we can see here, in the certificate, in the enrolment data, Certificate 3 is still showing to be, it has had a decline. Certificate 4 and Diploma have got a steady growth within the 2010-2013 NCVE data that has been presented to us. If we move to the next one, I did indicate to us that the highest qualifications the most participants are coming in is they are holding an advanced diploma or a bachelor degree. And of course, that's a positive for the sector to see that we are having students and also employees that are degree qualified. So that gives us that confidence moving in to that sector. So if we proceed to have a look at, in financial services and in vocational education, there are training costs and there are factors that we need to look at. We're looking at financial services qualifications are used broadly across the economy and with very high numbers outside the financial services industry. There's cross collaboration and cross links with business, with IT, and so hence when you are looking at training packages, you need to look at the broad spectrum of when you are packaging it, what else can I bring in to make it as robust and holistic for the learner. Also, looking at your industry partnerships and links with industry in your preparation when you are upselling or cross-selling that particular qualification. and identifying how you can customise it with particular products and services that industry partners have, i.e. for example insurance or financial planning or even accounting. And one of the things that the assessment needs to have that real life component. So as part of that, training costs, yes, they might be higher for the provider to put together, but you need to look at the return and the uptake for the people who are entering that space to study within financial services. The other big area that also has come up within financial services is the need for leadership. And leadership is a key issue in this sector. We identified that, especially through CPA Australia. They believe that the capabilities and the experience of Australian managers trails in comparison to other countries. And Australian managers need to improve on their knowledge of international markets, particularly in Asia, given our very close partnerships and our business relationships, in order to improve our competitiveness and our productivity within business. CPA Australia also identified the economic reform priorities that are needed for managers working in the financial services sector. They identified that there were gaps, such as leaders and managers need to know how to develop and retain talent. They also include things as two-way communication, implementing culture and systems that are inclusive of different generations. So to be able to diversify your workforce, to be able to deal with the various levels of interpersonal relationships and also partnerships with not only locally but on the global market. CEOs also identified that member engagement is paramount in order to continue business with both onshore and offshore, and also to retain talent, increase our productivity, diversity and training. That's been a very big area of focus in financial services. Operational efficiency, so to ensure that your costs are down, but also your operative costs are increasing and getting maximum exposure. And increasing our member engagement. That has been a really big thing. So it's okay to have studied a qualification, to be out there practicing as a manager, but engaging with your internal staff and external partners is imperative in order to build the business outcomes and also to achieve economic growth as needed. IBSA also looks after the business services training package, and there we have a new qualification in leadership and management. So when you are looking at packaging your financial services training package, looking across at those leadership and management units and bringing those into a qualification would be beneficial given the need that has been identified within the sector for leadership. The other big area also of focus is customer centricity. Customer service is a culture of ensuring staff members are empowered to make a positive customer experience, especially when you are dealing with particular products and services. So it's about that communication, it's that interaction, that engagement with your clients, with your customers, but also knowing your products and how the product can service the need of your clients. So building those skills is very important. And we've seen, and we will see further of that in the National Disability Insurance Scheme that the government has introduced. The need for customer connectivity with the disability insurance and the retirement package. So in financial services, we have identified that insurance, both at the superannuation level, at disability insurance, has been a big area where there is growth, and that has shown us in the stats and also the occupational outcomes. Being customer-centric is the core business that's required in financial services. It ensures that customers are now expecting to be able to receive a bundled product, a service, advice, cross-channel capability, 24-hour interaction, to be able to access their products online, to be able to have that communication with that person on the other line and identify the soft skills that's needed to be able to service the client's needs. If you're missing on those service skills, the customer now has a plethora of providers and products and services to go out there shopping online, face-to-face, through various social media, where retaining that customer is imperative as part of that membership, that operating capability and that growth that's needed. And being customer-centric is now the core business that we're finding in the financial services organisations. Customers are expecting that relationship. They aren't looking for that push product, but they're looking for value. Technology is playing a really big part, as we know, across all industries and sectors. And one of the biggest focus in the technological advancements that we have within our industry, financial services, is to be able to strengthen our economy by making financial systems that are more resilient, that lift the value of our economy, our superannuation and our retirement outcomes. Also, they need to be able to drive economic growth and productivity. They need to enhance the confidence and trust in the environment for both our clients and customers. The enhancements of stronger compliance and regulatory requirements it builds on trust and accountability, and ensures that the technology that we do have for both mobile banking and automated functions is meeting the needs of the 21st century. The rise of online banking we've seen is being a big push. We now have mobile data that we can access for our banking. We can do it via the telephone. You can do it through various social medias as such. And so the banks and other providers are expected to move with the times and have these services on hand. Further exposure that we have with technological transformations is a risk factor, and the risk for online fraud, the risk for liquidity, market risks, and the element of risk within our operations. So when we look at financial services, it isn't just about providing a service face-to-face, but also about the behind the scenes to ensure that our capability and our outputs are of great resilience and of greater transformation, given the outcomes that we are experiencing. The next thing that I'd like to look at is our skills of the people that work within the financial services sector. Employers are looking for strong qualifications and in-depth experience, and we've seen that come out with a financial planning inquiry. The Parliamentary Joint Commission is asking for financial planners to have high qualifications, degree. They're both looking at the qualifications, ethical and professional standards to be increased, given the events that have happened, as we know, in the past couple of years with financial planners and poor advice. And that's one example. Employers are also looking for experience. They're looking for good product knowledge. They're looking for access to strong research and marketing skills for the people that are moving within the sector. Employment in the sector is concentrated predominantly, as we know, within Sydney and Melbourne, in those particular hubs. However, Australia is becoming a hub for financial market companies and relies heavily on electronic trading, reflecting a capable and skilled workforce, good regulatory and legal reputation, and given the quality of our lifestyles. So that's imperative. Students need to be exposed to real-life experiences whilst undertaking their training. Engagement with industry partners is imperative, and also that work integrated learning experience, as I said, as part of that uptake in training. The sector is becoming more and more competitive with our Asian partners, and so by improving our Asian competence in our workforce and including the understanding of different cultures, languages and market nuances are imperative in this space for anyone that's working in financial services. The other big area in financial services is the data analytical skills. In order to make the most of the opportunities that are available to us in financial services through big data, organisations are always looking to build team-based data analytical capability. It's not just about data analysis in the financial organisations, but they need to have the knowledge to be able to look at across the organisation and to understand the language of analytics and how to sort it, interpret it and derive the value of the information that's available, and to see how does that come down to the core basis of what it is the financial institution does and the confidence in providing that data back to management. Banks are ensuring always that are leveraging on general and big data as part of their wearable devices. That means expanding their networks of physical objects. They're looking at biometrics as DNA matching, facial matching, retina recognition, pins and signatures for access of various informations. And of course, banking is one of the biggest areas that we know where data analytics plays a very big role. And it's very sophisticated in the way that it applies that. When we look at security and transactional integrity, cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are potential things that can shake up the financial services market. So we need to be able to look at that as to how we do trade with minimal fees, but also that having that security and that confidence. Fraud is a big area in the financial services industry. As we know, no doubt the financial services sector is one of the fastest changing areas in our community. The combination of industry, deregulation, exploitation of new and emerging technologies result in the financial institutions developing greater benefits of services that are not putting customers at risk or their savings. So yeah, big data is really important when we're looking at interpreting how financial industry is going and to be able to modernise our customer service tools. Moving on to compliance, vocational providers have, as we know, are very stringent in their application of the compliance of their training package and their delivery of their services to students. But the other area of compliance is the industry. Industry has got very strong regulations. As we know, there's ASIC is one of our regulators out there, but also government is looking at always policy and regulatory change and reforms to ensure that there's greater scrutiny, greater compliance and confidence in the industry of the people that are working in financial services. There's been various Senate inquiries, which I'm not going to go into, but there are various Senate inquiries, the PJC inquiry, FOFA, Future Financial Advisors. So there's various regulatory and reforms that are happening to ensure that anyone practicing within the sector is compliant in an ethical way and not putting risk at the forefront for the benefit of their customers. Diversity. Okay, financial services, of course, has diversity management skills, is currently not, as we know, we're not currently drawing on our widest talent. However, we would be beneficial to look at the emerging needs of our diverse workforce, with women being vastly underrepresented in leadership positions and very few Indigenous people participating in financial service training programs. So there's both the need within the training sector and the industry where they can provide a better mix of both workers and look at the diversifying functions and operations to increase productivity and also to bring in the wider workforce in financial services. By doing that, you're also bringing in greater business acumen for the diverse workforce that you have, and also the employment opportunities that exist when you have a diverse workforce is that you're able to meet both a family and work balance outcomes, you know, with job sharing, part-time, full-time, you know, working from home and etc. So that's a big area that financial services, certain sectors do it really good, like the banking sector does it really well. Other sectors, financial planning, probably insurance, you know, insurance case studies, you know, accounting is really good, bookkeeping, they have that diversity. But of course, there's always opportunities to grow that and to diversify where possible. Social media, I think social media is a really big one at the moment. We all access it on our handheld devices, through laptops, through various different means. And of course, it has a very huge influence in the financial services sector and in our workforce. We can see that industry is moving towards social media in an effort to become more relevant to our younger market, of course, and to provide better access to their services. And we all want that, and we all have some sort of app on our phone, as we know, or our tablet that we can access. The various handheld devices allow you now to as a customer to access your bank, to transfer money, check on various claims that you've put in, lodge applications, etc., to providers, to insurances. Wearable devices, banks and insurances also want to leverage that data generated from wearable devices. If they can marry the data that they already have with real time, to be able to suit the customer's location, the customer's lifestyle, and also to offer an extremely powerful service. and that's what they're looking at. Virtual assistants and natural language questioning answering services is the other thing too. We know that you can ring for a particular service and you have a voice automated capability. Press 1 for this, press 2 if you want to speak to someone, if you want to check your, and do your online banking, etc. So that's really important, but also speaking to an advisor or relationship manager or a customer contact person, people want to have that human touch as well, other than just the social media component. And of course, what we can see is that with social media, there's all these new ways that financial services can interact and do interact with the global markets. One of them being that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are there. We have been able to send money overseas, access our money through ATMs, and you can do that in a very easy, fluid way with very limited fees or intermediaries. So social media, is playing a big impact and having a big impact in financial services. So that's a bit of an overview about what's happening within the sector in financial services. What I will talk about now is probably some projects that I've been working on with IBSA in the financial services. And so the 4 areas that I've focused on this year have been within the personal injury management space, superannuation in post-retirement, personal trustees, and anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing. So there have been 4 projects that have been focused on and enhanced the financial services training package, hence the version 2 release that should be out shortly. So if I talk a little bit about personal injury management, injury management is an area that has got huge growth at the moment because of the NDIS, National Disability Insurance Scheme. It looks at personal injury case management and claims. In the Certificate 4 in Personal Injury Management, we introduced 3 new units of competency in order to look at the medical indemnity claims area. These are very specific to industry, and I know that industry delivers these enterprise RTOs. However, there is those great opportunities for RTOs to work in collaboration with such providers and deliver and offer this particular training in these specialised areas. The next one also is superannuation. We looked at post-retirement, and this came about through ASFA, the Australian Superannuation Fund. They have identified, given the baby boomer growth that we currently have, that we developed 5 new units of competency, and we added those electives. We added them as electives in the Certificate 4 in superannuation and the Certificate 4 in financial services. So they can be delivered as a skill set, and I understand that they're not funded by every state and territory. They all vary. However, they can be offered as a standalone short course, or alternatively incorporated as part of a qualification. The next area quickly that I talked about, personal trustees. Once again, industry requested this, the change in the Certificate 4 in Personal Trust Administration, all because of reforms and legislative changes. And of course, we've created a new diploma of personal trusts, and that we have 5 new units of competency. Once again, very specific to industry in personal, especially in wealth management and trusteeship. And the last project that I worked on was anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing. It's a bit of a mouthful, this one here. We upped the qualification to a graduate diploma because industry said to us that it's people who are entering this particular sector already have a high degree, either being law or economics, accounting. It could be in various sectors, and the diploma didn't quite meet the needs of the sector. We through consultation, increased it to a graduate diploma. We've got 8 new units of competency, and of course those 8 new units of competency are also, we've incorporated a new skill set which make up 5 of those particular units that can be offered for those who just want to gain those particular skill sets and still continue working in industry. So once again, full qual or just the skill set. So they've been the 4 projects that I've worked in 2015, and currently I've so the past 3 months undertaken a scoping project in the financial planning sector, looking at the future direction of VET, especially in financial planning, in conjunction with a review that the government has brought on with the financial planners, lifting the professional, ethical and educational standards. So the report can be found on our website if you want to view it, my scoping report. And at the moment, we're also working with the Tax Practitioners Board, looking at the future needs and the growth of the payroll sector, given the anticipated legislative changes that will happen for the ATO reporting. So once again, it's just a scoping paper that outcomes aren't known yet until the Commonwealth Government announcement in 2016. So that's the work that's been happening across in financial services. So thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions? I know we're out of time. Okay, well, thank you very much for your attention. I'll pass you over now to my colleague, Louise, to talk to you a little bit about the commercial resources that IBSA have.
Thanks, Demmi.
Thank God.
Thanks, Demmi. As Demmi explained, good morning, everyone. As Demmi explained, unfortunately, we don't have financial services resources with IBSA. However, we do have two BS2 training package areas where we do provide resources. I'm Louise McIntyre and I'm representing the commercial arm of IBSA this morning. We do have, in the last 6 or 7 years, have produced training resources in BSB and TAE10. Quite a number of you will probably have already seen these resources and know about them. So I'm here to give you an update on those. For those of you who are new to the IBSA resources, I'll give you a short overview and then a number of contacts that you can contact me or IBSA so you can gather further information. So what we can offer you. We can offer BSB and TAE10 student and trainer resources. We can provide printed student workbooks delivered to your organisation. We can provide those same student workbooks via a digital or self-print licence. We can also provide those student workbooks and e-learning activities through the IBSA LMS or through your own LMS. All are supported by the same facilitator and assessor guides. So for those of you who are new to IBSA resources, if you just step back to the simplest thing, we have a student workbook, which is for individual units. It provides information, resources, scenarios, learning activities, and questions for the student to fill in. It also has references to YouTube links where a number of Andrew Vincent's YouTube links are about some of the companies in Australia, whether it might be related to marketing or communications or teamwork. So the YouTube links reference straight into the activities that the students are working on in the student workbook. They can be viewed online. Accompanying that is the assessment materials, and they're provided on a facilitator guide, either via Hightail or USB. They are all Word documents, so you can change and contextualise them as you are required to do. In the last 12 months, we have updated 99 of our resources, taking into account the new standards. The assessment materials are mapped against unit performance criteria, critical evidence and specific criteria, required knowledge and skills, and foundation skills. So, print products for BSB and TAE10, as I said before, the student workbooks can be delivered via courier or in a digital format so that you can print them down in your office. You would need to have at least 20 students and delivering a whole qualification for it to be cost effective for you to have a digital print licence. If you're below that, you're best to use the opportunity to purchase the printed workbooks off our website. If you want further information about that and wish your books logoed, you need to order a minimum of 20 student workbooks. And any of that information you can gauge from our customer service team on the phone number that I'll give you right at the end, and or through an account manager. There are 2.5 of us in Melbourne, and very happy to hear from you. We also have, as I explained before, editable facilitator resources which can be digitally delivered either by hightail or through, if you're buying a whole suite of them, like 15 or 20, we can place them all on a USB stick and send them out to you to that way. Thank you. Once we've finished the student workbook, we then script up the main points in the student workbook so that they become e-learning modules, and we send them off to our software partner. Those two, they can be formatted in two different ways. One way is through the IBSA LMS, and the other way is through SCORM links, which you can load up onto your platform, so your Blackboard or your Moodle site. They are not large amounts of text or the student workbook. They are interactive activities and have multiple choice quizzes. The same videos that we referenced in the student workbook are also on the e-learning activities. We have available to support your training and delivery about 80 units on e-learning. We are able to give you a free demo. Once again, all you need to do is contact the IBSA phone number or send us an email, and we can set you up so you can have a free demo to see what it looks like. What is happening next year is about March next year. We are working with a partner right now to develop a whole new learning management system platform, and I know everyone at IBSA is looking forward very much to that. Our LMS platform is 6 years old. It's user-friendly, and it's been very good for the time that it's been in the marketplace for 6 years, but we're very keen to see a brand new, highlighted, interactive, colourful platform, which we will be demonstrating once it becomes available March, April next year. Okay, so what do we have that's complementary? We have a simulated business, two businesses, a cafe and a hardware store. So in particular, those people who are delivering in a classroom, you've got a simulated business with access to all sorts of company documentation, which you can use as a way to assist students understand what a company processes and documentation might look like. They are free to anyone who purchase resources and use our delivery and assessment. We also have on this link here that's down the bottom of the page, that's going to be sent through to you rather than me going through that now because we're short of time. But there are 24 case studies. This year, IBSA did a project and they went round and looked at quite a large number of RTOs that deliver packages throughout the whole of Australia in quite a number of different training package areas. And what they were looking at is best practice in assessment. Now, a summary of all those case studies are up on our website, and 8 of them are on video. So you get to meet the training manager and the IT people who have put together assessment online, or you get to meet the face-to-face trainers and assessors and students who have done a good practice assessment within the face-to-face classroom delivery session. In particular, there is one from Central Institute in Western Australia, and the other one from Western Australia is Kimberley Institute. One was in the arts administration area, and the other was in screen and print media. So please have a look at those if you feel you want some new invigorated ideas about what's best practice in assessment. Okay, so what are we working on now? Steve, who's industry manager for BSB, is going to talk about what's coming through in the way of new training packages very shortly. But in complementing that, we are working on new resources to assist you through training and delivery in that area. So we are about to release a Cert 4 in work health and safety. Those hard copy units should be ready in the first 2 weeks of January. Some are available now, but the rest of them should be ready in January. About 8 weeks later, we should have the accompanying e-learning activities for you. Cert 4 in diploma and training and assessment, we are working on the updates for that in lieu of when it is endorsed. Cert 4 and diploma in marketing and communications, which you'll hear more about from Steve. We're working on those units. And Cert 4, 2 qualifications are coming through in small business management, and Steve again will explain that to you. So they're the things we're working on right now, along with our brand new LMS. So what's up on the screen now is the link to the IBSA website /store. So if you're interested in having a look at any of the student resources, the hard copy workbooks, you wish the first 20 pages, go to the website, go to the store, tap in FIM 502, whatever the unit is you're interested in, click on the sample. You can download the first 20 pages. It gives you an index and shows you what is relevant, what is in that student workbook before you need to purchase it. It also gives you the first 20 pages of the facilitator and assessor guide. It also gives you a summary of what's in the unit. So there are samples for you. So it just gives you a summary there again that we can provide you with a self-print license. We have e-learning. We have a facilitator, assessor guides and student workbooks. If you wish to know anything more about a self-print license or e-learning, it's probably best to contact the IBSA office, which you can do so on the number there, because it is a little more involved and it needs to be a step-by-step process so we can explain to you how it all operates, how it works, pricing, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely, please, if there are any queries, don't hesitate to contact the IBSA office. Thank you.